Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, April 27, 2016, of the Brighton Town Board. We're happy to have you here, whether you're here in person or if you're streaming us live at home. You can stream us now live on YouTube. If you're here in the room, the materials are on the back table. And if you're watching at home or wherever else you may be connected to your computer, you can view all of those same supporting documents on the Town of Brighton web page, www.townofbrighton.org. If you're here, let's start with a pledge to the flag, and I'm going to ask Jim to lead us. If you're watching at home,
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start with a pledge to the flag, and I'm going to ask Jim to lead us. If we should experience any technical difficulties during the meeting, when you're watching at home on Time Warner Cable, please call Time Warner Cable directly. Their number is 756-5000. Problems with the audio or the video, watching on our cable access channel live, 756-5000. Now, if there is an emergency here in the room, you'll hear the town hall emergency alarm system activated. If you hear that, please leave the auditorium immediately, either through the door to my right, marked with the exit sign, turn right, go down the stairs, out the back door to Town Hall and move away from Town Hall, or through either of the double doors in the rear of the room, marked with the exit signs, through the lobby, out the front door, down the steps, and again, away from Town Hall. We don't expect that, but just in case. Okay, we do have a couple of presentations tonight to start the meeting. And I'm going to start with a proclamation commemorating Days of Remembrance of the Holocaust. Whereas the Holocaust was the state-sponsored systematic persecution and annihilation of 6 million European Jews by Nazi Germany and its collaborators. Non-Jews such as Roma or Gypsies, people with disabilities, and Poles were also targeted for destruction or decimation for racial, ethnic, or national reasons, and millions more, including homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and political dissidents, also suffered grievous oppression and death under Nazi tyranny. Whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments, to actively rededicate ourselves to the principles of individual freedom in a just society. Whereas pursuant to an act of Congress, Public Law 96-388, the United States Holocaust Memorial Council designates the days of remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust to be Sunday, May 1st through Sunday, May 8th, including the Day of Remembrance known as Yom HaShoah, Thursday, May 5th, 2016. Whereas Sunday, May 1st through Sunday, May 8th, 2016 has been set aside for the people of the town of Brighton to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as to reflect on the need for respect for all peoples. Now, therefore, I, William W. Maley, Supervisor of the Town of Brighton and the Brighton Town Board, do hereby proclaim the week of Sunday, May 1st through Sunday, May 8th, 2016, as days of remembrance in memory of the victims of the Holocaust and in honor of the survivors as well as the rescuers and the liberators, and further proclaim that we, as citizens of the Town of Brighton, should work to promote human dignity and confront hate wherever and whenever it occurs. And this proclamation is signed on the 27th day of April 2016 by myself and the members of the town board. There are events that will be held during the week to to commemorate Yom HaShoah. We also have a proclamation. You may wonder why I have a baseball hat sitting here next to me. That baseball hat says Tree City, USA. And for the 14th year, the town of Brighton is a Tree City, USA. And that's something we're very proud of. We're proud of our tree canopy. We're proud of the support that we give to that tree canopy, both financial and in all the other ways we do it. So this next proclamation is in honor of Arbor Day. Whereas the last Friday in April has been officially designated as Arbor Day in the state of New York, and whereas the residents of the town of Brighton realize that trees are a gift and one of this community's most precious natural resources, and whereas the town of Brighton is proud to be named a Tree City, USA by the Arbor Day Foundation, we pledge our commitment to upholding the standards of this most honored distinction. Whereas trees grace the landscape of our community with quiet dignity and beauty, adding a unique charm and natural diversity to our many neighborhoods through each season of the year. And whereas while we all enjoy the gift of trees, we are solely responsible for their protection against misuse, disease, and natural predators, and also responsible for the careful and proper planning for their regrowth and harvest. And whereas the town of Brighton, realizing the critical importance of trees in our communities, proudly adopted the Preservation of Trees local law in 2001 to further strengthen our commitment to protect and preserve Brighton's tree resources. Now therefore, I, William W. Maley, Supervisor of the town of Brighton and the Brighton Town Board, do hereby celebrate the observance of Arbor Day on Friday, April 29th, 2016 in the town of Brighton, by asking all Brighton residents to reflect on the beauty and importance of trees in our lives and to continue to support the protection and preservation of this most precious community asset throughout the year. And this proclamation is also signed this 27th day of April 2016 by myself and by the members of the town board. I am wearing an Arbor Day pin tonight, also in honor. We received some Arbor Day prints from the foundation today and an Arbor Day flag, and we're going to figure out where to display that flag to commemorate Arbor Day this Friday, but really to commemorate our commitment to the preservation of our tree canopy. So, with that, we have one more presentation tonight. That one may be a little bit longer, but it's one that we do every year. It's a very important presentation because at the root of, no tree pun intended there, of what we do as a town board, we are the stewards of the town's finances. And as part of that responsibility, we have determined that it is important to have our financial statements audited and to have further review and action taken by our accountants to ensure that not only are we reporting our financial reports and statements in accordance with the appropriate procedures for government organizations, but that there's another pair of eyes so that the people of the town of Brighton can be comfortable that your town board is acting responsibly with respect to our finances. So I'm going to ask Ray Wager, who is here tonight on behalf of the accounting firm of Raymond F. Wager, CPA, PC, to make our presentation of our audited financial reports and other reports. Ray, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here tonight. I'll be relatively brief, but I'd like to just kind of go over where we stand. For the 2015 audit has been completed. All the field work is done. All the statements are put together. You should have copies of several documents. The first major document is the basic financial statements.
You will see that that document is 71 pages long. It has wonderful amount of information in there. It has information about all of your operating funds, all your budgets. It has a section in that report which is the MD&A, the Management Discussion and Analysis, which is right up front. It's about 5 pages long. If you don't have time to study the entire report, reading through those first 5 pages gives you a nice overview as far as what happened last year, how things changed, how they improved or didn't improve, how your budgets came out. So it's a very good document, and it's something that's worth looking at. Overall, your financial condition continues to be excellent. Okay, and I say that because we work with about 30 or 40 other municipalities, and we study the balance sheet, we study the budget comparisons. You have a very good balance sheet, you have good fund balances, you have policies that suggest what fund balance levels you should have, which is ideal. You have some reserves which are set up and funded to a certain level for future expenditures, which certainly is good. We also look at your budgets. We look at how the budgets came out. In fact, we had a meeting just last week with your finance group, and we went through all of your different funds, all of your different balance sheets, all of your budget comparisons. And when you look at that, you can see how consistent you are from one year to the other. We look for comparisons. We like to see anything which is unusual from year to year, and you'll see a very good consistent reporting on all your different funds. So of all the funds that you maintain, there isn't any of them that I bring your attention to that are in trouble or financially not solid. So overall, the financial report looks very good. Now we also prepare 4 more documents. The 71 pages isn't quite enough, so we have 4 other documents. And the first document that I'll refer to is called as internal control related matters. It used to be called the old management letter. That's a report when we go through our procedures for the audit. We have an audit program which is about 250 pages long that we study all of your procedures, all of your checks and balances, and we make sure that you have good procedures in place. And from that work that we complete, if we find anything that we feel is lacking or areas where we think you can improve, we will make suggestions, and that's what we do on an annual basis. And you'll see in the management letter that there's really only one area in payroll that we thought you could improve your controls and your reporting, which is really remarkable considering the amount of funds and the size of your budgets and your staff. We only had one specific recommendation in the area of improving some controls on the payroll. And you will also see in that report that Suzanne has written a response, which is always good, that when we make a recommendation, it's good to have a report. In fact, the state requires a response to a management letter that will be filed with Albany. And it's a corrective action plan, and hopefully that will go forward and improve that control. And this control that we identified, we didn't consider it a major weakness. We just thought it was something you could improve on. So that's in the management letter. You also have 3 other reports. So when we do our audit and our normal procedures, there's certain areas where, number one, the state requires some additional work over and beyond just the regular audit, and one is in the justice. In the law, it's required that you have someone review the justice accounts, and we do that for you. And we have a report. You'll see one of the reports that talks about the judges. We make sure that the accounts are reconciled, that the right amounts of money are sent to the state, and there's good accountability. And we found that that is the case. We also do a special review of the town clerk and the receiver of taxes. Since there's so many transactions in that area, that we do a special look and we test additional transactions during the year to make sure that those procedures are that are in place and that the transactions are being recorded correctly. And then the final report you have, I think we just call it special procedures. Every year we identify 3 or 4 areas where we may want to do some extra testing. And it might be in payroll, it might be in the disbursements, it may be in the bidding area, it may be in the police department, certain transactions where we want to take a targeted look. Because our audit procedures, basically, when we audit the town, we do kind of a random sample across all of your transactions. So we don't look in depth at a lot of transactions. So you never know. We make sure that your controls and your procedures are in place. That's the main result of what our audit procedures are. But these additional targeted transactions, I think, are good, because we'll actually, if you have 200 transactions, we may look at 100 of them in these special procedures. I mean, we really take the microscope out. So we've been doing that for a time, and each year I think we change it up just a little bit, and then next year we may look at something else and really take a close look. So when you add it all up with the extra procedures besides the regular audit procedures, you have some very good audit coverage across the board. So, is there anything else? No. The one other document that we shared at the Finance Committee is an executive summary, and hopefully the rest of your board, if you haven't seen that, I'm sure that can be shared. And what that is about a 6-page document of just the basic information from the funds. So you don't have to get into the 71-page report as deep as you necessarily need to. So you have that also. So really you have the audit report and 5 other documents. So hopefully that will give you a good overview on where you're at, and you know that your equities, your fund balances are good, and your budget process is good, because look at your budget comparisons. If there's any line items that have variances, they're very easily explained, and that tells me that you know what's in the budgets and you know why there's a change. In fact, recently, because of the lower prices on the gas and oil utilities, so you see a positive variance in some of those, and all of those variances were explained very, very easily during the audit process. So is there any questions at all concerning the audit process, any of the reports in front of you? Anything, the accounting profession seems to be just adding more and more and more stuff. In the next couple of years, there will be another 4 or 5 pages of information. There'll be more information on the retiree health benefits. There will be more information about tax abatements in the financial report. There will be footnotes explaining them. So the report will probably go to 75 or 80 pages. So they really, really want to get everything in there they possibly can, which I guess is okay, but it is a bit of an overwhelming document. So has anyone had a chance to look at it?
Well, we spent a fair amount of time with you last week, Ray. Appreciate that. I was just kind of stunned by the one state analysis they have us do that would suggest our town is worth $58 million. It's as if we were going to sell the streets and the town hall and even the pumper truck, but I guess we're not planning on doing that.
Oh, no, I hope.
And that's the depreciated value.
Yeah.
But thanks for taking the time with us, Ray.
Yeah, Ray, I appreciate it. We always look for independent validation that we are managing the finances of the community in a responsible way, and certainly your audit report this year does that. I think it's fair to say that our continued AA2 credit rating from Moody's, independent rating agency, is indicative of prudent financial controls, and most recently the state comptroller's stress testing over the last few years, in which the town has each year had a very, very favorable score, frankly, in a time when things are difficult for many local municipalities. So all of those are independent validations that the finances of the town of Brighton are in good shape. I do appreciate, going through your special reviews of our investments, making sure that we comply with our investment policies, the police confidential fund, Brighton Memorial Library's payroll, our procurement policies, these systematic, in-depth reviews of some fairly important, very important policies and procedures of town government really help us to see that each of our departments are working with the finance department to maintain our financial integrity. So, thank you for that. We will be posting these now that we're going to be receiving and filing them with our communications in just a moment. As we have been doing, these will be posted on the town website. Our website just got some favorable publicity from the New York State Empire, I should call it the Empire Center of New York, I think is their formal name. It is another independent group, and one of the things they do is review web pages. And one of the things they like to see is that 5 years worth of financial statements are on our web page. So you will be able very soon to if they're not there already, they're not yet, but they will be very soon, see these financial statements on our webpage. So we want the finances of the town to be as transparent as possible, and your report on their appropriateness to be transparent, and we appreciate that.
Very good.
Thank you, Ray. So you will be able very soon to, if they're not there already, they're not yet, but they will be very soon. Okay. We will now begin the open forum portion of our meeting. As always, the open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the town board about any matter. Could be something on the agenda, but it doesn't have to be. Now, if you are here to address a matter that is on the agenda as a public hearing, and we do have a public hearing tonight on a couple matters, on some trees, on some proposed parking, local law revising parking restrictions on Glen Road, a local law relating to sewer rents. So we're going to have 3 public hearings tonight. If you're here to speak to any of those 3 public hearings, I would ask that if you want your comments to be included in the record, that you hold your comments until we call those hearings. But if not, if you'd just like to address us during the open forum, please raise your hand. We'll recognize you. Come up to the podium. And if you would, please give your name and address and direct your comments to the board and not to the audience. If you have any written materials to submit, you can submit them to the clerk and they'll be included as part of the meeting. So is there anyone that would like to address the town board during the open forum portion of the meeting? Raise your hand, we'll recognize you, come up to the podium. Okay, hearing none, we will continue on with the business portion of our meeting, and can I have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. We'll now begin the public hearings. The first is a public hearing to consider the removal of town trees located adjacent to 76 South Grosvenor Road.
764.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
1776, I guess. 764 South Grosvenor Road, 155 Chelmsford Road, and 59 Elwell Drive. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been mailed out to residents?
Yes, the notice was sent to the residents in the immediate area, as well as the Brighton Pittsburgh Post publication on March 31st.
Great. Notice having been given, I now declare this public hearing to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the town board concerning the removal of any of these 3 trees?
Yes, the notice
Yes, sir.
was
Bob,
sent
come on up.
the residents
Good to see
in
you.
the immediate area, as well as the Brighton Pittsburgh Post publication on March 31st.
My name is Robert Heyer. I live at 169 Chelmsford Road. The tree at 155 Chelmsford is directly across the street from my house. This tree is diseased up through the center. During some storms, it loses branches from the top. It's a tree that the resident was going to cut down themselves, but they were stopped and told that the tree was in the right of way. So when Kathy Markert was the arborist for the highway department, she wrote the tree up, and then it went down the path that all trees go for takedown, and finally we're at the culmination of that. And I really believe that tree needs to come down, and soon. I had a silver maple on the corner that the town took down, and they planted a beautiful oak tree there, which is doing quite well. And I know the resident there, it's a couple, she indicated to me she would be interested in having a tree planted to replace that. And as you alluded to in your Arbor Day, we have many trees in town, but it's important for us to get rid of the ones that are diseased or in danger of falling down, because it's a detriment to the town. And if the residents are willing to have new trees planted, then that just improves your tree canopy. It may take a while, but you know what, that oak tree replaced a large silver maple, and I'll tell you what, it's 30 foot high, 40 foot high now. So
That oak tree will
it's growing.
will
So
outlast the silver
it'll
maple.
look better in the long run, okay? So I hope you take action and take that tree down right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Then that just improves your tree canopy. It may take a while.
Anyone else here on any of those three trees? I would note that in the proposed resolution that you have in front of you, the department is directed to replace each of those trees after they've been removed, and as always with a tree that's appropriate for street use, we do have, and I'll direct that they be included in the record of this public hearing, the reports on each of these trees as well as some photos. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on any of these proposed tree removals? Hearing none, then I declare this public hearing to be closed, and you have a resolution. Can I have a motion to act on that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Thank you. Our second public hearing is concerning a proposed local law that is proposed to amend parking restrictions along Glen Road. I do want to say before we, let me just ask, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yeah, again, on this, the March 31st edition of the Post.
Thank you. I also want to note, before I call the public hearing to be open, that I do not intend for the board to take action tonight.
Yeah, again,
For
on this,
some
the
personal
March
reasons,
31st edition.
want to hold this public hearing open, but because the public hearing was noticed for tonight, we're going to start the public hearing tonight, but we will hold it open to a future date. So now I declare the public hearing to be open. Notice having been given, is there anyone here that would like to speak to this proposed local law? Let's come on up. Public hearing open, but because the public hearing was noticed.
I am Deborah Correa. I live at 69 Glen Road.
But we will hold it open.
So I looked over the proposal, which was very similar to the one we looked at about 3 years ago. And I can support almost all of it, with the exception of the parking in front of number 44 and number 66 Glen Road. I would not like to lose that. I would not like to make that a no parking area. I can support. Do I need to lay any groundwork for this, or?
No.
Okay, good. So there's a theory that preventing cars from going beyond the blind curve on Glen Road will create more safety. And that would be great if there was no traffic there. But as it stands, there's 6 houses beyond the curve that have traffic going in and out all the time. And one of the things, even with the signage that we have now that says turn around here and park for the park here, that what I have noticed is that first-time park visitors, which there's there's more and more all the time. The park is very popular. That first-time park visitors really are checking it out. And they're going to, no matter what the signs say, they don't know when they're up there near the retaining wall, they don't know where the park is, how far they have to walk, and they're going to come down. I see it all the time. They're going to come down. I don't think we can prevent people from coming down. They turn around in my driveway. My driveway is the one everyone turns around in. And, it's the way it is. I mean, I can't do anything about it. I mean, I wouldn't want to take whatever measures to make that not be possible. So I have also noticed in the last 3 years, because there was a lot of theory around the safety and what's going to happen, that it's actually, even with the increased park visitors, it's pretty much remained a similar situation. So there's a lot of activity, like even when I drove out this afternoon, there were people walking in the middle of the street. So there's that issue, which isn't a parking issue. So there's the pedestrian issue that could be looked at, because there is some sort of, it's pretty much remained cognizant disconnect. I don't know how to put it, how to describe what happens to people when they come down there in their exploratory nature opening, that somehow, even with their toddlers, they'll walk in right on the yellow line, so something around that I think could really be beneficial. As I said today, they were parking on both sides of the street. So even on Upper Glen Road, where we're going to have parking on both sides, I see that as almost, even though it's before the blind curve, is almost more dangerous, because there's a lot of jockeying to fit in. There's not really parking. There's not a shoulder on the road. There's a lot of activity up there and in between cars. But I don't see any reason at all to eliminate parking for the neighbors. I'll agree with taking half of it away in front of 59 on the east side. That is now the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. restricted parking on your map. So, and then the other thing, along with the pedestrian issue, is that the park is so popular now that I'm hoping that there's some thinking ahead of how to have an access into the Glen that it works a little bit better. So we have the Penfield Road that gets overfull. We get the Glen Road that gets overfull, like in the height of the season. And I know there's been talk about other things that I don't know if there's possibilities for that. And so then I've also been thinking about collectively coming up with some clearer signage around this, so that if the parking is stopped before the blind curve as you go down, so it would be, I think it's considered the east side, so the right-hand side as you come down Glen Road. If it stops before the blind curve, there can be a very clear signage there, no parking beyond this point, even if there is parking on the other side, because we're only dealing with the going in, and it would be true from there to the bridge. And as it stands, the neighbors have been really cooperative around training the park visitors to not park illegally. We make a lot of calls, actually, and we or make little suggestions to people like, ooh, you'll get a ticket, like we're being their friend. So we have really, and all the time there's cars parked right next to, like in front of my house, there's a sign that says no parking anytime. And usually, if a car is going to come and park illegally, it'll be right next to that sign. So, so a lot of these measures, well, the intention, I understand, is, is good. We're trying to make it better. I don't actually see there going to be much change, and I don't see any reason to eliminate the parking in front of number 44 and number 60. And I think it would be a hardship for my household and for other households down there. So that's my main thing, is that I'd like to support as much as I can. That, to me, is a deal breaker, that particular few yards. So I would like to keep, to be clear, the parking on the west side from the bridge to the turnaround the same as it is now. So there's a no parking zone from opposite the driveway of 69 to the bridge. And then from that point to the turnaround is open on the west side. And people don't park there, actually. And there's no safety issue there with the parking. So, any feedback around that, what you're thinking, why you want to eliminate that?
Yeah, let me thank you, Deb. Thank you for that. I was down actually today. Wanted to come down and take a look and let one of your neighbors know that we weren't. I was pretty sure everybody knew, but I wanted to make sure that folks down there knew that we were not going to take action tonight.
And I want to say we really appreciate that.
I was down.
Because we all are feeling the.
Yes, we share that. But I did want to, our Commissioner of Public Works, Tim Keefe, had put a proposal together, and frankly, as you know, and as everybody on the board knows, when the park, shortly after the park opened, some parking restrictions were put into place, and there are just some internal problems with what's in the law now. But two, we thought it was a good time, based on experience, to take a look and frankly to try to get consensus in the neighborhood. And 2 years ago, we held a series of meetings with the Public Safety Committee, encouraged all of the neighbors at the bottom of the hill to try to come up with something that made sense and that everybody could agree to. But the message was, that's what we'd like to have happen, but even if there isn't a consensus, we're going to take a look and make some judgments. The one thing there was, I think, a consensus on, and one of the ideas that I think I certainly hoped, would alleviate some of the parking pressure, is that one of the property owners towards the top of the hill had offered a portion of his property for use as a parking lot. And it was proposed that we would do a parking lot with, really a green parking lot with some kind of, whether it's pervious pavement or some other kind of system that would not, increase the runoff. But I think the neighbors all felt that parking lot was not something they wanted, but that meant we were going to have to look at something to alleviate what really is not only a capacity but a safety issue down there. So that led to this, this latest go-round. We are, this proposal only addresses sort of the formal, legal, no parking, the stuff that can be enforced and will be enforced by the police department, and particularly as we get into the season. You get that influx of traffic, and I know the department does respond and will particularly look at the holidays and early in the season to come down there, because when people get tickets, it does send a message. Some of the other signage, like making it I couldn't agree with you more, that signage that makes it very clear there is no parking past this point. You know, there are two signs now, as you know, on the left where the turnaround is, saying turn around here. I envision some kind of a, you know, just turn around, you know, however it reads, but just making a very clear message. There is no parking, turn around here. Someone asked whether we could put up signs, no turning around in driveways. That's not something that we can, you know, put up a sign and enforce. I know your driveway probably does or may well get the most. People do turn around in some of the others as well. And that, when I was down there today, I saw a guy back out. So people use all sorts of ways to back out, and certainly trying to keep people from going farther than the turnaround is a goal. And I think we'll look at, I took again today some photos. When I got there, sure enough, there was a car that was illegally parked on the outbound side. The driver was sort of straddling the no parking sign, but clearly it would have been a violation. But I think we want to take all of this into account, and you know, your input is important, and we appreciate it.
You know, if it became a problem, having those two, that area between 44 and 66 Glen Road as open parking, then, I mean, we could always restrict it. I'm really nervous about taking away that parking, which I only really use for when people are coming and going, or I have workmen or something. Really worried about losing parking on that whole section and never, you know, we might never get it back. And also you should know that the occupants of number 59 Glen Road are no longer living there. So there'll be some new people that might have some new ideas and would probably appreciate parking as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
I think that's all my points. And, you know, I'm really grateful that that it's been relative, considering how much happens in the middle of that street, we've been safe, and people are really enjoying the park a lot. It's really quite an asset.
It really is. I will say that when I've been down, particularly on holidays, Labor Day seems in particular to be really, really tough. That last hurrah. And that, maybe more than anything else, to me, was an indication that, as you're clearly right, more people know about it. It's getting more popular. As you may know, several months ago, there was some dialogue with an off-road biking
we've added a
group
global
to make
audio
it clear to
inspector
them
that gives you control over
that
all your
under our
audio
town
sources
law, we do
in one
not
place.
allow
With
mountain
complex
bikes,
productions that
off-road
use several
biking,
cameras or audio
in
tracks,
the park.
it can be difficult to keep
Really
track of all your
from a
audio sources. With
perspective
the audio
of
inspector,
protecting the
it's
trails.
easy to see and adjust all your audio in one place.
It's in places
In this
on the
example,
wet side.
on layer 3, you can see we have audio coming in from our baseball game.
We appreciated
and
the
also
offers of the
microphone
bikers
from
to
our
come
camera.
in and help.
We have a separate microphone on layer 4 that
but
we want to
frankly,
use for commentary.
we
And we've
have a
imported a
limited
background
budget,
music track on the
as
layer
everybody
5.
knows, for park
Instead of going to
maintenance,
each of our
putting the
layers and
chips down
sources
and
to adjust
everything
the
else.
audio, we can do that in one place with the audio inspector.
Didn't feel that it
Your
was
master
appropriate
audio
for
is shown
mountain
on the
bikes,
far
and I'm
left.
hoping that they
It shows
have
your project's
continued
audio output.
to
In
respect
this
that. We
example,
got that
I
message
don't
out
want
to
the
the
audio from the
off-road
baseball
biking
game
community,
clear, so I'll
particularly
mute that.
since Tryon
I
Park,
also don't want the
which
audio
does
from our
allow
camera because I'd
mountain
prefer to
biking
use our
is close
microphone
by.
setup,
Yeah,
which
I
is on
haven't
layer
seen
4.
many bikes.
So I'll mute the
Like-
camera's audio.
And
I can adjust the
will
level of
say
our
that,
primary microphone, and our
the
background music is a
popularity
little too
is
loud, so I'll
almost
bring that
all
down
the
too.
professional photographers
If your
in
audio is
town
coming from a different
do
source in your
professional
video,
photo
you
shoots
might
down
want to
there
move that
now.
to the live
And
input
also,
area, which
with
gives you
everybody
additional
taking
control,
pictures and
such as
posting
sync
on
delay.
Facebook. Like it's
Sync delay
not a
allows you to
secret
delay your audio so
anymore.
that you can
It's
sync it
really-
perfectly with your separate
I'm
video
guilty.
source.
The postcard falls are
Go to
on
audio inspector and wire.
the
Yeah.
profile picture on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
So
everybody's coming, and is there any chance that the Linden Tech Park, the Linden Hills property, is that anywhere in the idea of like getting access to the Glen through theirs? Or is that just a pipe drain?
I know it's something that's been talked about in the past. And of course, to a certain extent, you're both in Penfield and Brighton.
In Wirecast Pro,
over there,
we've added a
and,
global audio inspector
so
that gives you control
I
over
think
all your audio
realistically,
sources in one place.
Pipe drain.
With complex
the
productions
Glen
that
Road
use several cameras or audio
entrance
tracks, it can be
and,
difficult to
the
keep track of all
parking
your audio
lot
sources.
off Penfield, but
With
also,
the
of
audio
course, on
inspector,
Park Lane
it's easy to
on
see
that
and
side.
adjust all your audio
Also
in one place.
Is there any way
In
to
this
increase
example,
the
on layer
parking
3,
the
you can
Penfield
see
Road
we have
lot?
audio coming in from our baseball game.
when
also
the park was
microphone
put
from the
in,
camera.
there was
We have a separate microphone
a
on
real
layer 4
reluctance.
that
We
we'll use
didn't
for
want to
commentary.
turn it into a sea of
And we've
asphalt.
imported a
That
background
was
music track
the
onto
prior
layer 5.
administration, but
Instead of
they
going to
wanted
each
a
of our layers
parking
and sources to adjust the
area
audio,
that would sort of
we can do
blend
that in one
into the
place with the audio
natural
inspector.
feel of
Your
the
master
area. And
audio
I think
is shown
that
on
lot
our
does
left.
it. Of course,
It
there are
shows your
times
project's
when
audio
people park
output.
on the grass. There are times when people park across the street. And I even got one call last fall about a tour bus that had just stopped on Penfield Road, and I can only imagine. So it's a blessing and a curse to have such a beautiful, popular park there.
It's the limos on Glen Road, the rides and the rides.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
guys,
thank you,
what's going
and,
Thank you.
on? Today
I
I'm
really,
here and I'm going to be showing you,
want
how
to
to get rid of
support
that really annoying
the
echo
proposal,
in
but there's
Wirecast.
that one
So
clause, I
Wirecast
hope you
is a live streaming
understand
program
why that doesn't
which
work.
allows you to live stream
And
to
I think
YouTube.
you'll hear from other neighbors
Now-
supporting my position.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank
Even
you.
though it's free, even though it's
Is there
very,
anyone
very
else
good,
that would
the only
like to
problem
address
that it
Bob?
has is when you set it up to be capturing your Xbox or your capture window right here,
Bob Byron, 169 Chelmsford Road.
you get a really
Because I work for the
annoying
highway
echo. So
department.
I'm just going to
I
go
go down
like,
that
across a
street
couple
every
of tabs
Thursday
here
with a
on my
popper.
Xbox, and if I come
And
back to the
it is
Wirecast
imperative
window,
that you
can
not let anybody
see
park beyond that bend,
the
because when
audio
we back
levels are
that truck
jumping up and down,
to
and then I
that
press it again,
turnaround,
and it goes up even more.
when we swing
So,
out, we're covering
it's
both
a really
lanes.
big,
If there's
long
cars
echo.
there, we're not going to be able to go
And
down there.
that prevents a
And
lot
I've
of people from
had
live
to
streaming
back
the same
up the
sound
hill
when they're going to go.
with cars on both sides
And
because
that-
people park in the turnaround.
Get rid of that.
And
Now,
then one time
when they
I
are
showed
going
up
to live
and the
stream with
resident,
Wirecast,
I was
and that's
there
why a lot of
and
people
the
go
Brighton
for
police were there
Xclip and
ticketing the
Open
cars.
Broadcaster.
But
I'm
it's
here
a
to
real
show you
hazard
how
when we
you
have
get
to
rid of
back
that really
up the
annoying
road.
echo. So
Same thing when the trash
You've
crew
seen
comes
it.
through, they gotta bring a
Now, how
payloader
to
down
prevent
there.
it. So
They
all
turn
you do is
around
you click
at
on
that
these
turnaround,
headphones.
and a truck
So what
trails
these
up.
headphones
So
are
they need
is
room to
allowing you to
load the
listen
trucks. Parking beyond that
like, to
curve
the
just
sound that's being
eliminates that.
going through
We won't be
Wirecast,
able to
and
do
it
our
allows
job.
you to
So
adjust the volume up
I
and
don't know
down
what the
as you
proposal
wish.
is, but
Now,
I would prefer that you not
that
let anybody
causes the
park
echo.
beyond the curve.
So if I click
Okay.
across,
Thank you, Bob.
No, and you know, when the residents have had a contract or something, they're pretty much hug the road or something for those lower houses. They're not a problem, but you get a lot of cars in there, it'd be a problem. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this public hearing? Hearing none, again, we will keep this public hearing open, and at our next meeting, which I believe is, May 11th? We will continue the public hearing. The goal really is whatever changes we make, we want to get them approved so signage can come in just as soon as possible, because once the summer season starts, the traffic problems only increase. Okay, we're good with that for tonight. The next matter is the proposed local law amending Chapter 147 of the Town Code concerning sewer rents. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been published on that matter?
March 31st of Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. Notice having been given, I declare the public hearing on this local law to be open. I'm going to ask Ramsey if you would just real quickly summarize what we're trying to do with this local law.
The purpose of the amendments to Chapter 147 sewer rates, it's pretty simple. It's intended to provide for periodical updates of our sewer rent charges by the town. With the management of our finances, we look at that every year as part of the budget process. And the intent of this law is to enable us to do that easily and not have to change our code and publish it every year. And we do hold the hearings as part of the public process. People have an opportunity to be heard as part of that process, and that's what the law is covering.
Yeah, that's been the challenge, because right now it says it's changed by local law.
Yes.
So we have to go through the process, if we're going to make amendments to the sewer rents, to hold a public hearing on a local law, and then it doesn't get published typically until the next year.
Almost the next
So
year.
we're perpetually a year behind on what people see if they get whether hard copy or online.
You also are
sewer
holding,
rent
in
level.
a way, in relationship to hearings.
Correct.
We only need to hold one. That's what the law is fixing.
So all it really does is it gives us the ability to set the sewer rents by resolution rather than by local law. A little bit easier procedure, but still one that we would do here at the town board.
And it's also in accordance with the state law.
Right.
And Supervisor, there's been a number of rates and fines and such that we do set by town board resolution, and that definitely is, in addition to that, there's also a monetary savings by not having to pay for the code updates and print new books and
Yep.
get everything filed with the state until it lets us stay evergreen.
Good. Anyone here to speak to that proposed local law? Anyone on the board that would like to address it? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and can I have a motion to take action on the adoption of this proposed local law?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Bids. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to solicit for proposals for the purchase of a replacement ambulance by the Brighton Ambulance Services District for 2016. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This would give the Brighton Volunteer Ambulance the opportunity to begin preparing bid specifications to purchase a new ambulance. What we anticipate, our goal is that they will be taking delivery of this new ambulance in about January of 2017. Unfortunately, with ambulances, you don't just go down to the ambulance dealer and buy one off the lot. These things are customized, and they have, a lengthy turnaround time. And the specifications have been important. The professionals with the ambulance corps draw those up. We review them, and then they go out to bid. So that's our goal here. The ambulance they're replacing has now, I think, what did we say, 116,000 miles on it, give or take. So by the time we're replacing it, it will be well over 120,000 miles, and those are not gentle miles. And in fact, a lot more engine use than that, because often they need to keep, given the emergency nature of what they do, those ambulances spend more time idling than most, which also is hard on the engines. This particular one that we're replacing has become quite expensive from a repair and maintenance perspective. We had our folks, highway department mechanic, take a look at it as well. So, but
Just so that the Sustainability Committee, which I sit as liaison, is not concerned about the idling practice. The reason it's idling is not because of the engine, but to keep the drugs inside at a temperature, that they can be maintained and not spoiled. They have to be kept cool in the summer and warm in the winter.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Communications, can I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
With the addition of the financial statements and the other documents prepared by Ray Wager's office.
So moved.
Second.
We have a letter from Diane D. Burnett announcing her retirement, and that retirement took effect April 22nd. She had a wonderful going away party. People in the know that the Brighton Town Court is not only the best town court in Monroe County, but possibly the best court in the state. And one of the things that I said to Dee at her going away party is, people focus on the judges, and they're very visible, and we've got great judges. But just as important as to why people think so highly of our courts is the continuity and the quality of the clerks and everybody working back there in the clerk's office. And Dee was really the glue that held that group together. We're going to miss her. We have hired her replacement, who came with a lot of court experience herself, but tough to say goodbye to Dee. Now this next letter, though, this is a good one, because this is from the president of the New York State Town Clerks Association, and it congratulates our town clerk, Dan Amon, who has now been certified by the State Town Clerks Association as a registered municipal clerk. And Dan, maybe you can just talk real briefly about what you had to do to get that designation.
Thank you, Supervisor. It's for the attorneys at the table. It's much like your CLEs. It's a continuing education certification. So as with the conferences that we go to and such, and continually trying to learn the latest ways to help serve our residents better, and it's a lot of work, and you have to continue to earn the credits to maintain it. So just like to thank the board for the continuing opportunity to attend these training conferences to make this possible.
Great. Well, thank you for putting in the effort and doing all you do to serve the members of the community. It is appreciated. We have a motion and a second to receive and file these communications. Further comments? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Committee reports. Chris, Community Services.
Community Services met on April 20th. We had quite an extensive agenda. A discussion was briefly had about the fact that Brighton Central School District apparently has tabled for the time being their plans for expanding Brookside. But yet our Recreation Department will still be looking at our long-term plans for where the Rec Department should be located and what best serves that community. We talked about the Brickyard Trail opening, which is anticipated in June, and we're all very excited about that. With respect to bicycles in the park, Matt Beeman has indicated he will continue to review the current bicycle usage as most appropriate in the different parks, and perhaps make a recommendation for the change of our statute, which currently prohibits any bicycle use in the park, in any of the parks. Some discussion about how the baseball program works and how we coordinate that with other scheduling and revenues, sharing, etc. And that's going to be reviewed in detail. Also, we talked about the fact that the comprehensive plan is focusing on park recommendations, and we really do look forward to their recommendations for use of Buckland and other parks, which will come up shortly, I think, in the next comprehensive plan presentation. Matt Beeman told us that the lodge usage and rentals continues fairly stable, and that those revenues, about $16,000, are being well used within the department, and they continue. Brighton baseball, opening day this Saturday. Parade starts at 11. It's always a very fun day. The bicycle routes are going to be a continued focus of the Community Services Committee with the help of the Citizens Advisory Board. We're hopeful that Richard DeSera, who met with me at length last year, and our new member, Jackie Marchand, on that committee will look at coordinating and putting together informational brochures, etc., about the bicycle usage in the town, which will kind of coordinate our bicycle boulevards, the Highland Crossing trails, our new Brickyard Trail, etc. and make bicycle usage more active in the town. Beautification and maintenance, Louise's Clean Sweep program's coming up here on the 14th, and again, it's being expanded somewhat for some work in the Triangle Park with some paint up and some plant up as well, but we're looking for a good turnout there. Traffic control box project, the painting project continues. We have solidified our steering committee. Myself, Katie Maley, one of the Brighton High School art teachers, Betsy Liano, who does adjunct work with the Brighton Rec Department as an artist, and Rochelle Bell, formerly on the Sustainability Committee. The four of us are working together to coordinate that. We've expanded our jury beyond those four people for selection of those submissions that we're looking forward to, with Joel Rosen, a local artist, and then Catherine Wu, a Brighton High School artist, that will join us to make a 6-person committee. And we're going to expand the workforce for the priming and anti-graffiti painting, and hopefully engage perhaps Boy Scouts and other members of the community beyond just Commissioner Keefe and myself. We talked about the prescription take-back program. Again, Louise has been instrumental in that, which will be April 30th, this Saturday, at 11 o'clock till 1. Till 3, excuse me, to work around Brighton baseball. But then for new business, we talked about the summer market, farmers market. I believe that starts May 22nd, so that's coming up very quickly. Also, we noted that a community farm proposal had been submitted and will be considered. The community garden, I understand there are still some plots available. That's always been heavily subscribed. It's a great program. We did also talk, from the Sublime to the woodchucks, that's been a problem over there, and we have asked that those wild animals being taken into custody by the control officers not be released near the community garden, because they've been seen there.
Mark, is that something, I don't know whether that's been conveyed back to you, but I know...
It's not been the policy that they bring it there. They bring them up to the landfill up off North Landing Road. At least that's my understanding.
Well, that's misinformation. That's a good.
I will, now that I've just said that, confirm that. I know some of the meetings that I attend, I had heard that in the past, but I will get that communication out.
Great.
Nowhere near the plot of land, the north part up by the landfill is a great place.
Wonderful. That's great. Just on a good spot. But I guess the problem has been with baby woodchucks getting in through the fence. So that's.
They probably can't chuck as much wood as
the
big woodchuck.
Thank you. All right, smoking policy. Dan Amon presented something I would be in favor of, is a total ban on smoking and tobacco use and e-cigarette use on town properties. Dan, you want to?
Yeah, well, the state, and again, I'll lean to the lawyers because I always forget the order on this, but the
State
Court of Appeals,
the highest court in the state.
Yeah, the highest court in New York, just upheld a case. The State Parks Department had banned smoking on all parkland, parking lots near playgrounds, beaches, the works, and that was challenged by a smokers' rights group. Court of Appeals upheld that the Parks Department does have that right under the rights given to them by the state legislature. So we figure that's a good time that there's case law that would work in our favor. So I think obviously it's a good health benefit. Certainly is. As we pay insurance, for retirees going forward, it's in our best interest, and everybody's working to be healthier, and certainly there's an economic benefit there as well. So I think it's a good time to take a look at this, and it'll be going forward to other committees as it gets put together.
And as Dan had pointed out as well, I think one of the most important aspects of banning it is just simply the example that's set for the children in the town. It's nothing worse than having a child out in the field playing baseball or soccer, and mom or dad leaning against the fence having a smoke. It just does not set a good example, and I think our community is sensitive to that. But
If one of you has a copy of that decision or just the name or citation, if
Sitting
you
on
could
my
send it
desk,
my
I
way
can
so I
get
could
that
just
to
read
you.
it, please. Thanks.
And lastly, another item that's near and dear to Louise's heart is the need for shade over at the pool. And she's trying to look at what our alternatives are, and she's going to be researching along with Becky Cotter what kind of quality umbrellas might be purchased to provide maximum shade there for
Our
purchase.
goal is to
which
get them in, get something in before the pool opens,
When is it open? Anybody?
after school gets out.
Which is,
So in June. Yep.
But very full agenda. I assume we'll whittle it down as we go through, but who knows? Any other ideas people have that you think the Community Services Committee should look at, please communicate them to me. Next meeting is meant to be May 18th, which is meant to be the third Wednesday of the month, but
And
we've
I think
had
we're
some
gonna,
adjustments.
we'll keep it then. We're gonna keep it then. We
Okay.
are gonna tweak the FASC during the summer, but I think we can.
Still accommodate that, good?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Long report, sorry.
That's okay. You're doing a lot. That's what you're there for. Appreciate it.
Good.
Finance Committee, Jason.
And that's a good segue. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee met on April 19th, and each of the matters that are on tonight's agenda were discussed at last week's FASC meeting, including a detailed review with Ray Wager regarding his audit reports. And we also had representatives from Brighton Volunteer Ambulance to discuss the ambulance replacement, the frequency of that, and the bidding process that we discussed during the bids. And we also discussed tweaking our scheduled meetings for the summer from May through August, that instead of our normal Tuesday at 3:30, we will be meeting Wednesday mornings at 8:30. And that's for May through August. And then we'll return to our regular date and time in September, back in the fall. So the date and time of our next meeting will be on Wednesday, May 4th, beginning at 8:30 in the morning. Instead of in the stage, we'll be in the downstairs meeting room because of availability, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason.
So you think we're gonna be able to get from FAST to Community Services?
Yes.
Was Community
And
Services?
the actual
back here?
membership of the two committees, actually, I'm the only overlap. But
Well,
you come,
I come,
and it's
but I'm
good.
not-
But you're not the member of both. But
Although I did note that after having chaired that committee for 4 years, I don't think I ever had a meeting go 4.5 hours as Chairman DePonzio did on Tuesday. But
I got in early and I was able to get, it was that long?
That was an aberration. That was an aberration.
Should have called, I would have got you.
hopefully you'll get the committee out.
Although it was a heavy agenda because all 5 of us were actually at that meeting.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
we did
yeah.
hear
what I
the
told you.
auditor's report
Right,
at good length, so.
You did a very good
But
job.
it was a long meeting.
It was.
Thank you for that, Jason. Public safety.
Public safety has not met since the last, meeting here, and the next meeting will be on May 10th at 8 o'clock in the morning, downstairs meeting room. I did want to give you some figures from our electronics and our shredding event. We collected 6660 pounds of paper for the shredding, which brings our total to 73.26 tons. And we collected 4,600 pounds of electronics, which brings our total to 105 tons. 315 cars came through, and it was not as busy as usual, but it was busy.
It was busy.
Yeah, it was.
Busy. And actually, with the amount of cars, it was pretty average for what we've been doing, but electronics, I'm sure, is down because of, they're not taking everything anymore, as they used to.
The big CRT.
Yeah, the
television
CRT
sets.
televisions and
And
monitors.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they did say that we had 4,600 pounds, probably a little bit less when I take off the weights of the pallets and so forth. And it looks like we're gonna owe them $500 and something. So we will work on that. And this Saturday is the pharmaceutical take-back. As we said, it was from 11 to 3. If anybody comes earlier and the parking lot is filled with with baseball players and their coaches and so forth, go into the other parking lot.
The message is, please don't come before
Don't come
11
before
o'clock.
11, but because the parade usually starts a little bit before 11, and everybody will be gone very quickly. But if you do get here, go into the library side, come around to the back, and then get out of your car and walk over to the bays to bring us your medications. And then clean sweep 2 weeks later on the 14th, and it looks like it's going to be a very well-attended, hopefully a very well-attended event. We have the schools all are on board, and we're going to be giving out seedlings and saplings to the kids, and what's left over we're going to be able to plant in the park. So that will be again on May 14th. Come to the town hall at 9 in the morning to get your t-shirts and your grabbers and your gloves and your assignment.
Thanks, Louise. Public Works.
Public
Jim.
Works has not met since the last committee meeting, or the last council meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, next Tuesday on the 3rd of May.
Jim, will we have
9 o'clock in lower level community meeting room.
Will there be the opportunity at that meeting at all to discuss further the Glen Road parking issue, or is that reserved for the hearing?
I think at this point, it really makes sense to do it at the public hearings.
Yeah, at the hearing, yeah.
Now that we've started
Yeah, no,
the hearing, yeah.
that would be redundant.
Mark, was there something
I
you
did,
wanted to
actually,
add?
just to clarify, there's a public campaign that's going to announce the pharmaceutical take-back. It's going to be at the sheriff's office, and the start time is going to go out from the county, that being 10 a.m. I will have a staff member present in case that message as it goes out gets kind of confused and that we're starting a little bit later, but there will be some press on that. And this past Monday, we started the body-worn camera program, and all staff was trained on the usage. Actually, we spent quite a bit of time on the policy and went over the mechanical operation of the camera and the digital storage. And we are operational. If we're looking at our digital downloads in just the first day and a half, we continue on this course, and we're probably going to see an increase. 7 to 10 terabyte range is what we're looking at, and I was concerned at the budget time what that would mean moving forward. For the first 5 years, we have an all-inclusive plan, and what this is showing me is what not that my concern was, is what I thought would happen is that we would capture a lot of interactions and then have the need to store that. So I'll keep you advised as we go into that. We have put some information out to the public. Anybody that's watching, it's a little black box that's on the officer's uniform. It's part of the uniform, and then the policy that we've adopted is based on best practices from the national and state level. And I believe, as I said in the past, it's something that will work for us at the Brighton Police Department. But we are live, we are operational, and as we head into this budget time, I'll be talking about the storage implications, but giving you this idea, had we been paying for the actual digital storage, the budget implications, the financial implications, but we're live.
I did see the social media posting, Officer Carballo doing the
Great
training. I guess it was a train-the-trainer kind of situation, and then he worked with...
Taser International came in last week. They sent a rep from Scottsdale, Arizona. They gave us an administrative first 4 hours. I even have more knowledge than I didn't have that day, but I don't see where I'll be using that. I know that a terabyte's a lot of storage, but Sue and Barb from our IT staff were there, and Captain Cathaldi's done a phenomenal job managing this program, and I think the end result, the city is going live with their program in July. Some of my colleagues have been talking about body cameras. They're in a lot of agencies right now. There's a beta test at the sheriff's office. I know, there's been talk, this is the future, and the future's here in the town of Brighton for us right now.
Well, I appreciate that you've really taken the lead on that, Mark, and that you've done it with, as you mentioned, a set of policies that is, you've really benchmarked with state, national standards. You've worked with the members of the department. There are some communities that have, rolled them out without any policies at all. And to to me, that would be a dangerous course. And I'm really pleased with the way you've implemented this, and
I'll keep you
glad that it's
advised.
live.
As you're aware, and the town attorney's aware, I have reached out to Albany for direction. We are going to get a FOIL request. We are going to be asked to release footage, recordings. There is the New York State civil rights laws as they pertain to police officer files. So we're gone live with the camera. We'll have the storage, the recordings in the cloud in perpetuity. And then we'll get that legal direction as it comes, and I'm sure the courts will weigh in as well in New York State.
Mark, if there's ever any kind of interaction with a citizen and there's a FOIL request relating to that citizen, will that individual receive notice at all of a FOIL request and have the opportunity to prevent disclosure of interaction with the
that
police
was one
officer?
of the right to privacy was one of the things that I talked about in the community outreach. It's one of the things I talked about here. You would ask us to implement a step that currently does not exist in the FOIL process, and that's to let somebody that is a subject of FOIL know that that information about them is being requested. My first thought on that is that will be very staff intensive. It's not part of the law, but I can see I can see a point for doing that. I can also state that when we look at the FOIL request and we make the ultimate determination, there's a number of privacy issues as they pertain to the release right now of paperwork. There's even more so when it comes to the recording. So I want to get ahead of the curve, try to find out from Robert Freeman, who issues the directives for the state. Ultimately, it's going to boil down to judicial action, and I think with the framework that we have, the cloud-based storage, and we've also purchased a redaction program that is pretty much every state that has implemented these tasers. The departments have been confronted with releasing video as per their state sunshine laws or freedom of information laws, but also being compliant to privacy. And what that is pixelating certain things in a video. So again, that's something that we are in compliance. We've started the purchase process for the software. It's very inexpensive as far as software goes. It's less than $400, and some of our agencies in Monroe County currently use it. But I have a concern. I have a concern that somebody that is not part of the interaction will want that footage, and we'll work through this FOIL. But the cameras themselves are operational. We're 5-year with Taser International.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, new business, reading and approval of the claims. Jason?
Yes, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling the amount of $460,722.46. Notable claims include payment of $11,964 to M&T Bank, which represents a principal payment for the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Clean Water Bond. Also to DeFiore Construction in the amount of $64,372, representing a partial payment for the construction of the Brickyard Trail, which is coming right along. And a sign of the season, even though yesterday didn't feel like it, summer is coming, because we paid we will pay $3,648.38 to the Lakeside Sod Supply for clay for the baseball diamonds at Buckland, Town Park, and Meridian Center. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Thanks, Jason. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize approval for the supervisor to execute an extension to agreement with AVS to provide RPS V4 consulting and updating services for the RPS V4 software for the Town Assessor's Office for the year 2016. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
What does that mean?
This is a software upgrade that Elaine Ainsworth, our assessor, needs each year. The Real Property Services version 4, that's what the V4 stands for, Software is software specifically written to be compatible with the state's requirements on assessment, and this, gives us the necessary updates. As we all know, software has to be updated. So
It helps to keep the assessments on record updated and the data updated relative to the sales that have occurred in the town the previous year and the current year.
thank you.
The software it heavily integrates with the clerk's office as well on the tax side of the house. All of the people have escrow accounts and things for their taxes, that is recorded in there. It all feeds back into the county system to generate the tax bills. So every time there's a sale, they're working hard to use this to get everything updated. It's not the prettiest piece of software out there, but it's much like the mainframe that finance uses. It's super functional, and it's tough to beat, even though it may not look as snazzy as some other suites out there.
Is it the same, the software that generates the hard copy that we can look at out in front of the assessor's office when we're trying to find out?
It feeds the information that's out there. Yeah. It's the back end.
Right, but it does not produce that report.
Correct. Yeah.
Anything further? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to approve and declare a highway department battery charging system.
Skip.
Receive and file the petitions associated with documents related to proposed Whitney Lane Refuge District and set May 25th, 2016 as the public hearing date for the same. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Exactly as you said, we're going to set a public hearing on May 25th to consider forming yet another refuge district to save the residents on Whitney Lane some pretty significant money each year on their refuse hauling, and it's a small street. I don't know how many different haulers are actively serving customers on that street now, but one of the other things that does is cuts down on the number of trucks because you've only got one company. So with a price set by competitive bidding. So this is to set that public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Further comment? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Yeah, the next item is to approve a declaration of Highway Department battery charging system analyzer as surplus and authorize disposal of the same through the municipal auction program. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll, Dan.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute agreement with Monroe County for the town to conduct tobacco compliance checks with Brighton. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Again, this is something that we do each year, but Mark, if you can just very briefly.
It's it's a grant that the county health department provides. We basically go and make sure that our retailers are adhering to the law and not selling to minors less than 18. And I know there was some change. We've been doing this annually, and this has been every year it comes up, and I think you amended it to add, unless there's any provisions, just.
I think that's important to note.
It is amended to, the resolution was amended to add the opportunity to authorize the supervisor to execute future agreements as recommended by the chief of police for further years or future years for tobacco compliance checks. I will say there's a typo, however, I just discovered in the resolution. So I would ask Louise and Jim, if you'd accept a friendly amendment in the very last line of the resolution, following the word with, should be the words Monroe County.
Yes.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, we'll see it. Does that include e-cigarettes?
It includes, I believe, the e-cigarettes, the nicotine. I don't want to say that I'm naive as it pertains to them. I am aware of some businesses in Brighton that cater to that. They do have a no less than 18-year sign on the door that covers all their products. So I will look into that. One thing I will give kudos to the county. They have gone to a new contract tracking thing, and all the terms and conditions are stated, and it's all online, and blast us renewing emails. But Louise, I'll get back to you offline. I don't know the answer to that.
I think it does.
I'm assuming.
At least it can cover them, because it's my understanding that state law prohibits e-cigarette use under 18.
And that would also pertain to a vape store?
Yes. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is authorize an increase in budget appropriations with various road repair accounts and increase anticipated revenues in the Highway Department by $165,000 to be fully supported by New York State grant funding. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And this specifically reflects grant funding to do additional work when we start working on Highland Avenue this year, in particular to make it, when the project is finished, more pedestrian friendly.
Curbing and sidewalks.
Curbing and sidewalks, very, very important. That's a tough, we've talked about it for many years. Stretches of Highland Avenue that really, A, are very tight, and B, just don't have any good, safe pedestrian facilities, and this will help that. So,
This is South Clinton, east of the city line, I see.
yep, yep. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize bid awards to Empire Wrecking to provide demolition services and to Envoy Environmental Consultants to provide air monitoring and sampling services for two particular properties, with approval to execute any necessary change orders that do not collectively exceed 10% of the awarded contract price. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
These bids are for two properties that are now vacant. We've discussed them previously. One is on Remington Parkway. One is on Landing Park. The property on Landing Park, we have been in discussion, and the owner was here when we had the previous item. I have been in communication, as has staff, not only with the owner, but other parties involved with that property, as well as a potential purchaser. And while this action authorizes me to sign a demolition contract, it's not my intention to sign one right away. As we said when she was here, we were hopeful that with a potential sale, that the new purchaser will, in fact, be able to do that demolition themselves. But again, I can't stress enough that the board did make a finding that the house is unsafe and needs to be demolished. So while we do want to work with the property owner, that patience, if you will, is, we expect that it be diligently pursued and demolished, and if not, we will have to do that. With respect to the property on Remington, we have not. That's somewhat of a different situation, and there's been no indication that anybody else will demolish that property, so I do anticipate that we will be signing a contract ultimately to demolish that property later this season.
Two things on this resolution. First, the resolution as written provides an option to the supervisor to either sign a contract with just a contract to demolish just Remington, or to sign a contract that demolishes both Remington and Landing Park. Because of the way this matter was bid, there is not an option to demolish only Landing Park. It's just how it was bid out, so we're being consistent with that. So I think that's still going to be consistent with the intent of this board and what this board instructed, and what we hope and anticipate will be a responsible new owner taking control of Landing Park. Second, although Mr. Roscoe did request that the contracts be awarded with a 10% contingency kicker, there is no such language in the resolved paragraph, so that we're approving these contracts without the authority of the supervisor to make change orders up to 10%. I know there were some communications on that this afternoon with Mike Guyon about the likelihood of that. I know that he communicated it was unlikely that there would be the need for those. But I just wanted to point that out, that although you see in the introductory paragraph reference to that 10% contingency, you'll notice that the authorization in the second paragraph does not include that. We could include that if you wish.
And I will say, I would like that, frankly, given the time sensitivity of this matter. I don't want us to be held up while we have to come back for approval. Yes, if there's a significant change in the cost, I certainly think it's appropriate. But for a change order of up to 10%, the board has found that these properties both are unsafe. They need to be demolished. Frankly, for good reason, because the due process of the owners is very important, and the dialogue with particularly the owner of the Landing Park property is important. But if we have to demolish, when we get to that point, I don't want to come back and
Why would
lose
there be
another
any
month.
necessary change orders?
The same as you would for any construction situation, and it's probably less likely in a demolition, but if there are unexpected conditions that you might have to, I suppose, part of this, of course, is asbestos review, and if determines that there's more asbestos, for example, than anticipated. I don't know, but I
have no problem with that amendment.
10%, and that would give us that cushion to proceed as expeditiously as we can. So I would ask for a friendly amendment, Chris, from you to add that.
Accept that amendment.
And Jason, you
Accept that.
seconded
Yes.
it, and Ken, I see tapping away over there, so I think
That amendment would read at the very end of your resolution, and the town board further authorizes the supervisor to execute any change orders for the above described work that do not collectively exceed 10% of the awarded contracts.
Thank you.
Can just that I'm clear with the way that these were bid out, if we were to move forward on Remington Parkway and put Landing Park on hold, but then circumstances require us to move forward on Landing Park, would we then be able to have it go on separately on Landing Park then at that time, or would it have to
We're
come back?
going to know very quickly what's going on with Landing Park. There is a closing which is supposed to occur on May 5th, which is next week. If that occurs and the buyer comes in and applies for a demolition permit, then we'll know that that purchaser is moving forward in good faith, and I think the town will, in that case, be in a position to proceed with the demolition of only Remington and sign the contract for the demolition of only Remington. If, however, that closing does not occur, or the closing occurs and the new buyer does not come in for the demolition permit, then I think the intent is that the town will sign a contract for the demolition of both Landing Park and Remington. So I think all of this should be resolved possibly by the end of next week, but very shortly thereafter.
I'm certainly encouraged that the prospective purchaser has reached out to talk to staff, sent me a communication. So cautiously optimistic that that's exactly the way it's going to happen. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. The next matter, Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to receive and file a revised draft environmental impact statement dated April 20th, 2016, received from the Daniele family of companies for the project known as Whole Foods Plaza. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And that resolution prepared by the attorney to the town does simply receive and file the revised draft environmental impact statement. The applicant, and appreciate Anthony and Mario here tonight, submitted an initial draft environmental impact statement to the town. You'll recall this town board staff and our consultant reviewed it, and based on the recommendation and correspondence that was sent back to the developer, the town board did not find that that initial draft was sufficient and complete enough for public hearing, for public review. So we rejected it, communicated that with the developer, and the developer has now submitted an updated, revised draft environmental impact statement in response to our request. Based on the timeline that's allowed under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, we must take action unless the developer were to extend our time to take action. We need to take action by the second town board meeting in May. The May 25th town board meeting would be our last regularly scheduled meeting at which we could, again, complete our review, our staff review, and make a recommendation as to whether at this point it is sufficient for public review. So this is, although we're taking a vote tonight, all we're taking a vote on is that we are formally, for the record, receiving this document. At the May 25th meeting, we will take a vote, I anticipate, as to whether it is complete, and if so, to set a public hearing on that draft environmental impact statement.
I would just point out one additional thing this resolution does is to direct Ramsey as the environmental review liaison officer to send the document to our consultant, Stantec, for their review and comment as to whether the revised DEIS is complete and now ready for public comment.
As they did the first time around.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I don't know if the applicant wants to say anything, but I certainly don't think there's a need to, but you're always welcome to. Any comment from any members of the board? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for resubmitting. Next matter, Jim.
Next item is to receive and file the associated documents relating to the proposed Susquehanna Road, Northumberland Road, Storm Drainage District, and set a May 25th, 2016 as a public hearing date for the same. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
And just to clarify, we're receiving and filing petitions seeking to form that
Right.
district along with these
Right.
other associated documents. So we have a motion from Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
This is, of course, something we've been working on for some time. Further discussion, anybody?
Just one comment.
Yes, sir.
I just noticed, and it does not matter, but I want our records to be consistent, The word storm appears in the title of the district in the agenda. That actually is not part of the name of this district.
It is
Drainage.
drainage, thank you.
That's correct.
And the resolution, though, is correct.
The resolution is correct, as is, as are the petitions.
Perfect.
Those are consistent.
All right, thank you, good catch. Motion and a second, further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, a couple things I want to talk about tonight. First, to piggyback on something Chris said earlier, and I meant to follow it up right then, but I didn't.
Woodchucks?
Not woodchucks, no. Comprehensive plan. And in specifically the public survey. That public survey, actually 2 public surveys, is still available on the website. We really want as many people as possible to take those 2 surveys. The longer one shouldn't take you 10 minutes. The shorter one you do on your phone by text, and you answer the first question that appears on the web page, and it keeps feeding you the rest of the questions, and they're simple multiple choice questions. So what I'm going to ask and remind everybody is to go to the Town Comprehensive Plan webpage, envisionbrighton.org, and take that survey. We want you to be a part of our roadmap for Brighton's future. Next, I had a great opportunity Monday night to attend, as I have before, the graduation ceremony of the Parent Leadership Training Institute. This is the 4th class. It's a program that trains parents in the Rochester City School District and suburban school districts to act as leaders in their community and specifically as advocates for their children. There were 2 Brighton residents, Alice Shee and Karen Elam, that both graduated, as well as one of the moderators, one of the trainers in that program, Manish Dixit, also from Brighton. Put this in some frame of reference. A couple of years ago, one of the graduates from Brighton of that program, I met through that program, and she applied for and was appointed to and currently sits on our Zoning Board of Appeals, Christine Corrado. So it's a great program, and I was very happy to be there, and Mayor Warren was there as well, and a number of others from the community to congratulate 16 parents on getting through the program. Not everybody got through. 20-week program. This is a significant time commitment. 20 Monday nights. But these are folks that really cared enough about being advocates for their children. So great. Congratulations, Karen and Alice and everybody that participated. Leaf pickup. Leaf pickup has begun. As always, we are picking up both lawn debris. Some of those lawn debris may be leaves, but we pick them up in bulk, we pick them up in containers. We really prefer that they be in containers if they're manageable size, and in particular, if they're just little bundles of sticks. We are not going to stop, our trucks are not going to stop and pick up little tiny piles of sticks. So if that's, if you've got a bundle of, some sticks, please containerize them, either in one of the paper bags that you can get at the hardware or big home stores, or in a refuse container. They'll get picked up quicker, and they won't be blowing around or being quite as unsightly in the neighborhood. So the other thing, please, like we say with the leaves every year, please do not put your lawn and garden debris in the street. It can back up our drainage systems in the street, cause flooding. It's dangerous. We can't have cars weaving in and out, pedestrians, bicyclists. So please keep them on your lawn or your tree lawn if you have sidewalks and a tree lawn between the sidewalk and the street. And our crews are going around They are picking them up on a regular basis, and if you want to know where we're at and when they'll be coming to your neighborhood, you can go to the Town of Brighton webpage. You'll see the lawn and garden debris button right there on the home page. Click that and it'll take you to two maps, one for bulk debris, one for containerized debris, and you can see where your neighborhood is at. Actually, right here, this neighborhood got picked up today. So, last and very definitely not least, I wanted to spend a little extra time with this because it's something we have talked about a lot. Tomorrow morning is the first meeting of the County Clerk Adam Bello, the new vacant property task force that he has charged. And I am serving as one of the members of that task force. We have gotten a lot of preliminary information that he has asked that we all review in the meantime. It's a diverse group of people, public officials, lawyers, community leaders, people involved with the justice community, all looking at the multifaceted impact that vacant properties can have. Now, as we have said many times, on the one hand, we're fairly fortunate here in Brighton. We do have far fewer vacant problem properties than most communities have. But it only takes one. And I certainly applaud the new county clerk rather, for coming in and making this one of his top priorities. And I think it makes sense to try to address it on a county-wide basis. Real estate transactions are recorded on a county basis. The record keeping is there in his office, and this will facilitate the ability to have uniform rules county-wide, taking into account all of the various competing concerns. The comptroller, the state comptroller, Comptroller DiNapoli, just issued a report earlier this month on the state of vacant properties in New York State. There were some very interesting statistics in there. In New York, the average period of time, start to finish, of a property actually in foreclosure is over 2.5 years. Now, that doesn't count time before a property actually goes into foreclosure. Many times, a property owner may be delinquent on their mortgage, but for some reason, the bank chooses not to proceed with the foreclosure process, sometimes because they are overwhelmed with properties, because there have been a lot of them, but more often because they question whether they can get enough out of the sale of that property. That's a problem more in other communities than Brighton, because quite frankly, even with foreclosed properties and even with properties that have been in need of some TLC after the foreclosure process and then some, properties have been selling, and properties have been selling for significant purchase price. We've talked a lot about 280 Rhinecliff. As you know, back on New Year's Eve last year, it was purchased. We made some specific arrangements with the buyer to allow them to purchase, let them know where we were at. I was very pleased to drive by that property and see how much work has now been done. And those folks who paid 6 figures for that house, it's a very nice neighborhood, and although it needed a lot of work, they felt it was worth that price. It has been relisted as we were told that it would, and their hope is to now sell it to an owner-occupant. So that's I think going to be a real success story for that. Yes, Louise.
On the task force, are there any bankers?
I believe there are. Yes. I don't know all the representatives because we're meeting for the first time tomorrow, but there are certainly people, with experience in on the lending side of it. Now, that 2.5 year plus average is the 4th longest of any state, and it is 72% longer than what it took to clear foreclosure as recently as 2007. Now, why has it stretched out? Partly because the state made a number of changes to state law, largely to protect people whose houses go into foreclosure, to impose mandatory conferences so that people would have the opportunity to make offers to banks and have a better opportunity to reclaim their homes out of foreclosure. You know, the best solution is when a property owner who may have gone through some tough times is able to make things straight, and the lender hopefully makes some consideration to them. They don't really want to buy a bunch of vacant houses. It's a problem for them to resell them for the banks. So, but that takes time, and that's been one of the main things that has, you know, prolonged the process. In New York State as a whole, again, we are lucky. Our rate in Brighton is nowhere near this high, but about 4.7% of the mortgages in New York are in foreclosure currently, which is a staggering number, and it is second only to New Jersey. There are approximately 90,000 plus foreclosures pending in New York State right now. That's actually down a little bit during the past 2 years. 30% of all civil actions in New York State Supreme Court are foreclosures. Unbelievable, 30% of civil actions in Supreme Court are foreclosures. There were approximately 42,000 new foreclosures commenced last year, down slightly from a peak of about 47,000, but far, far above where those numbers were before the financial crisis. So realistically, people have not yet fully recovered, and our housing has not fully recovered from the financial crisis. So I'm really looking forward to working with this task force, because I know everybody up here, we've talked to people in the community formally here at board meetings and informally, and we know what an important issue this is at so many different levels. It's important for neighborhoods, but it's important, as I alluded, for those homeowners. We don't want to see people out on the street. We want to find ways that people have the opportunity to stay in their home. You know, as I've talked about before, the Attorney General has legislation pending. We've supported it. Unfortunately, the state legislature has not taken action on it. But one of the things that legislation would do is prohibit lenders from in any way suggesting to owners of property in foreclosure that they have to leave until there's a judgment, you know, until the hammer comes down on the sale. Too often, people think, oh, they got a notice of foreclosure, it's over, and they leave. And in fact, the process clearly has, in most cases, just begun when they get that notice. And they have rights to conferences and to mediation and to negotiate with the bank. And during that time, they have the right to stay in their homes. That legislation hasn't passed yet. That would strengthen our community. Properties in foreclosure are a problem. Vacant properties in foreclosure are a bigger problem. So stay tuned. I will continue to give updates on the task force as we meet and consider new ideas. I will share with all of you the materials that we received from the county clerk in preparation for this meeting tomorrow. That's all I have. Matters of the town attorney.
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Matters of the town clerk.
Nothing this evening?
Matters of the board.
We're going to have a busy weekend here with all that's going on. Brighton Little League, and also the recycling.
Yep.
When is the Brighton rodeo?
Bike rodeo
No,
is
not
in.
the bike rodeo. Well, bike rodeo, but the
Food truck rodeo.
Food truck rodeo.
Both the bike rodeo and the food truck rodeo are in June. I don't have the dates right in front of me.
First Thursday, or it might be around the 9th. It's on a Thursday night
It
at
is on
Brighton
a
High
Thursday
School.
night.
Yep.
And the bike rodeo, I believe, is the first Sunday in June, but don't quote me on it.
That's
We'll
usually.
we'll update that.
conjunction with the-
That's in conjunction with the farmer's market, the police department, and the Brighton Rotary Club. Partner and our bicycle pedestrian task force, Richard DeSera, is always there, and it's a fun morning for the kids.
I wanted to extend my thanks and appreciation to our registered municipal clerk. I had a call from a resident on Sunday and asked for some help that was only usually taken care of during business hours. And I was surprised that I got a text back from Dan within 5 minutes on a Sunday morning. And Dan just went to extraordinary ends to help these folks out. And I don't want to start a stampede for Sunday services, but at the same time, I mean, it just reflects the sort of public service Dan is willing to give and ready to give when necessary, and truly was appreciated by this resident. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Made me look good, too.
Tonight, we actually, if it looked a little different watching us at home, it's because tonight's meeting is the first one that is being filmed with our new 3 cameras that are installed, one on either side and one right under the clock there. So we do still have this one camera here. They're going to take a look to see which angle they like better. Hello up there. I would think as tall as I am, that top camera would just work fine, but I guess we'll know after this broadcast. And again, we do stream these live, and they're being streamed live to YouTube, to the Town of Brighton YouTube account. So hope everybody enjoyed watching the meeting tonight. But at this point, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people and litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thanks for being here tonight or for watching at home. We'll see you at our next meeting, May 11th, 2016 at 7 p.m. right here at Town Hall. Have a good evening, everybody.